If you'd told me 6 months ago that I'd be sitting in a hotel hallway, wearing a borrowed bellhop uniform, clutching a room service tray with a bottle of moat and a digital recorder hidden under the napkins, I'd have laughed in your face. Not because I thought my marriage was perfect, but because I didn't think my wife had the creativity to pull off something like this. I gave her too much credit, or maybe just the wrong kind. It started with a ping. You know that annoying Apple Find My notification? The one that pops up every time a shared device does something unexpected? Yeah, that. We had the standard family sharing setup, mostly for calendar invites, Apple Music, and the occasional lost AirPod. It wasn't supposed to be a surveillance system, at least not at first. But on one very average Wednesday evening, while I was elbow deep in a lasagna pan and half watching a Knicks game, my phone pinged. Your wife's iPhone was located near the Empire Regent Hotel. At first, I thought nothing of it. Maybe she cut through the hotel on the way to spin class. Maybe she had to pee. New York is short on public bathrooms and long on overpriced lobbies. But then it happened again the next Wednesday, and the one after that, and always at the same time, 6:42 p.m., like a Swiss watch that runs on betrayal. Her gym bag would be tossed casually onto our entry bench when she got home, like it had actually been used for more than propping up her alibi. She'd be flushed, not with sweat, but with that hyper-alert, artificially casual energy you get when you're trying to act normal after doing something wildly abnormal. She'd smell faintly of perfume, not eucalyptus-scented gym towels. And her makeup? Still perfect. Who does a full beat for a spin class? So I tested something. One Wednesday, I accidentally scheduled a surprise dinner for us. Told her at 5:30. She froze, then smiled. Oh, babe, I have a guest instructor tonight I've been dying to try. I can't skip this one. Uh-huh. That night, she was at the hotel. I checked. The week after that, I bought an AirTag. Cute little thing, really. Looks like a button, but with the passive-aggressive personality of a suspicious husband. I tucked it into the side pocket of her Lululemon gym tote, the one that cost more than my entire wardrobe. Then I waited. She left at 5:15 p.m. I watched her walk down to the street from our 22nd floor balcony, even waved as she disappeared. Real sweet moment. Like waving to someone before you send in the drone strike. 30 minutes later, the AirTag was still in her car, which, by the way, she had valet parked 3 blocks from the hotel. She's clever. I'll give her that. Didn't want to park in the hotel garage too often and get noticed. But not clever enough to know her husband used to manage security architecture for half of Midtown's office buildings. I live for patterns. The AirTag stayed in the car all night. She didn't even take her bag. I guess she didn't need spin shoes for what she was doing. When she got home around 9 p.m., I asked how the class was. Brutal, she said, rubbing her thighs. I bet. Now I wasn't just suspicious. I was insulted. She could have said she was seeing a friend. Could have pretended she was walking through Central Park. But no, she picked spin class. I mean, come on. If you're going to cheat, at least put some narrative muscle into it. So I planned. And not emotionally. Oh no. This wasn't some teary-eyed breakdown. This was logistics. Hotel staff turnover, delivery routes, uniform vendors, schedules. I was building something. Not a confrontation, a performance. And I wasn't going to do it alone. My friend Manny manages catering for a hotel in the same chain as the Empire Regent. One favor, a fake ID badge, and a very real employee polo later, I was in. I spent 2 weeks shadowing the staff on my training nights, memorizing the layout, watching their room service patterns, taking notes on VIP check-ins. I learned that her mystery rendezvous always took place in Suite 2141. Penthouse level. Champagne tray always delivered at 7 p.m. sharp. No ice. Always moat. Fancy. Last Wednesday, I put myself on the delivery rotation. Told the guy I'd cover for him while he stepped out for a smoke. First time running solo, he asked. No, I said. Just my first time making it personal. I rehearsed what I'd say when the door opened. I practiced looking neutral. Not smug, not angry. Just professional. Let them think I was just another nameless worker on autopilot. Let them unravel on their own. The bottle was cold in my gloved hand, condensation beating like nervous sweat. I could hear voices behind the door. Hers, unmistakable. Laughter. Light. Flirty. Then his, deeper, smooth, used to being listened to. Used to getting what he wants. I knocked. The click of the lock felt louder than it should have. Like the world was about to turn inside out. The door creaked open, And there she was, in a silk robe, makeup flawless, eyes widening. "Room service," I said flatly. Behind her, a man in a towel. About 50, in good shape, smug face. His arms slung lazily over the back of the couch, glass in hand. "Didn't order more," he said. "You did," I said. "Standing order. Moat. No ice. Every Wednesday." Her face cracked for a second. Just a flash. But I saw it. Recognition. Not just of the bottle, of me. She knew that voice. Knew that shape behind the cap and the mask. Her mouth opened. Closed. Then opened again. Before she could speak, I set the tray down on the console table just inside the door. "Enjoy your evening," I said, and turned to leave. But not before clicking the tiny switch under the napkins. The audio was live streaming. To her boss's wife. More to come. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was torn up about it. That part had died the moment I saw her drop that gym bag by the door like it was full of shame and Lululemon lies. No, I didn't sleep because I was busy watching the fallout happen in real time. See, when I said the audio was live streaming to her boss's wife, I wasn't exaggerating. A week earlier, I'd done my homework. Turns out, Mr. Silk Robe wasn't just her lover. He was her direct superior, senior VP of marketing for one of Manhattan's most image-obsessed luxury retail firms. And his wife? She just happened to be the actual CEO of the entire damn company. That's right. My wife was sleeping with her boss, and her boss was married to the woman who signed his paychecks. I know. Delicious. Her name is Elena Caldwell. Early 50s, former Vogue exec, sharp cheekbones and sharper instincts. You don't get to run a multi-billion-dollar retail empire by being slow. And from what I could tell, Elena was already sniffing something foul on her end. She followed my wife on Instagram from a burner. She liked old posts from years ago, classic move. Then she messaged me. Yes, me. That's when things clicked into place. She sent one sentence. "You married to the brunette in merchandising?" I replied. "You married to the jackass in the penthouse." We had a deal 10 minutes later. She gave me access to her personal encrypted stream app, something her security team uses when she travels. I gave her a date and a time. And when the moment came, I flipped the switch on my mic, walked out of the suite, and let Elena listen to her husband pour cheap pillow talk into a champagne flute. When I got to the service elevator, I could still hear the laughter coming through the earpiece. Hers, high-pitched and tipsy. His, lazy and full of himself. The sound of people who've never had to clean up the messes they make. By the time I reached street level and tossed the uniform into Manny's trunk, Elena had already sent me a thumbs-up emoji. Just that. Cold. Efficient. Regal. Like a woman selecting a wine to go with her revenge. I took the long way home. Midtown was buzzing like it always is at night. Too many cars, too many lit windows, too many stories unfolding behind glass. I walked past her favorite sushi place. The one she insisted we only go to on anniversaries. I smiled as I passed it. Funny how places stop hurting when the lies they're built on get exposed. When I finally walked into our apartment, it was almost midnight. I half expected to see her there, pacing, maybe trying to get ahead of it. But she hadn't even left the hotel yet. I guess when you're mid-affair, your sense of time gets fuzzy. Or maybe she just assumed I was off somewhere being the same predictable doormat I'd always been. Sweet, clueless, dependable Tom. Poor Tom. He thought his wife was at spin class. I poured myself a drink. Nothing fancy, just the bourbon I keep stashed behind the cereal boxes. Sat on the couch, turned the volume down on the TV, and just let the silence soak in. Not a sad silence. A loaded one. Like the air after a storm when you know the trees are still calculating which way to fall. The next morning, she came home like it was any other Thursday. Hair damp, gym bag slung over her shoulder, leggings on. Except now I knew the leggings were just stage dressing. Like a magician's sparkly cape. All misdirection, no substance. "Morning," she chirped, dropping her keys into the dish. She kissed me on the cheek. I didn't flinch. Why give away the game early? "How was class?" I asked. She yawned. "Killer. New instructor. Didn't love the playlist, but the burn was good." I almost choked on my coffee. Instead, I just nodded. "Glad you're sticking with it." She headed toward the bathroom, and I watched her go, not with longing or regret, but with the clinical detachment of a man watching a car he sold to a con artist disappear into traffic. You feel nothing but a weird sense of relief. Like, finally, that chapter's closed. Around 2 p.m., the text started. Not from her. From her boss. The man in the towel. Apparently, Elena didn't wait long. First, he texted her. Need to talk. Now. Then, did you tell your husband? Then, she knows. That's when I knew Elena hadn't just listened. She'd gone full scorched earth. I refreshed LinkedIn. His profile was still live. I gave it 2 hours. By 4:15, his job title had been replaced with, looking for new opportunities. Guess she didn't like the way he poured champagne. My wife came home early that day. She looked shaken. Hair up in a messy bun that wasn't really messy, just curated to look like she didn't care, when in fact, she probably hadn't stopped panicking for hours. Babe, she said, trying to keep it light. You will not believe the drama at work today. I nodded slowly. Try me. She perched on the edge of the couch, not too close. So, apparently, this is insane. But there's this rumor going around that Mark, you know, SVP Mark, was having an affair with someone on his team. Oh, I said. That's wild. She glanced at me, trying to read my face. I gave her nothing. Yeah, she continued. And get this, the CEO found out and fired him. Just like that. Total power move. Wow, I said. Good for her. Another glance. More hesitation. Anyway, I'm just glad it wasn't me he was interested in. That'd be awkward, huh? I stared at her for a moment. Let the silence grow roots. Then I smiled. Yeah, I said. Would have been awkward. That night, she barely touched her dinner. I pretended not to notice. By morning, her phone had been blowing up with messages from Mark, from coworkers, from mutual friends, trying to figure out what had gone down. And still, she said nothing. Until Saturday. We were having breakfast. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, the usual comfort food routine. She looked pale, like she hadn't slept. Then she did the thing. The classic thing. She reached across the table, touched my hand, and said, "Can we talk?" I folded my napkin, took a sip of orange juice. Of course. She bit her lip. Big, trembling breath. I need to be honest with you about something. I nodded slowly, and waited for the fireworks. Let her light the match. More to come. I leaned back in my chair and watched her fumble with her words. The same woman who once gave TED-style talks at company retreats couldn't string together a sentence without looking like she'd swallowed a cactus. It was impressive, in a pathetic kind of way. I've been going through something, she started, eyes darting toward the window like she might dive through it if this got any more uncomfortable. Mentally, emotionally, and I haven't known how to talk about it. There it was. The preamble. The same opening act every cheater rehearses in their head during that first wave of guilt. Not the real kind of guilt. No, this was the guilt of getting caught. Big difference. I nodded slowly. Go on. She blinked. Swallowed. Her voice trembled, but her mascara was still perfect. Of course it was. I made a mistake, she said. A really big one. Just one. I asked, raising an eyebrow. Must have been exhausting, putting all your eggs in that one immoral basket. She winced. Please. I need you to listen. Oh, I'm listening, I said. I've been listening for weeks. Every Wednesday night, to be exact. That shut her up for a full 5 seconds. Her mouth opened. Closed. Then she looked down at her plate like the syrup-soaked pancakes were going to give her the courage she lacked. How much do you know? She whispered. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Enough to know you should have picked a different hotel. Or at least turned off location sharing. Or maybe, wild idea, not slept with your boss. She winced again. Not because I was wrong, but because I said it out loud. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said. Of course you didn't, I said, nodding. You just tripped and fell into his towel. Happens all the time. Tom, please, she said, tears forming now. I've been so lost. You've been distant. Always working, always on your laptop. I felt invisible. I leaned forward. You weren't invisible. You were uninterested. Big difference. Her jaw tightened. You stopped caring. No, I said, my voice low and measured. I stopped chasing someone who already decided she was bored. I stopped planning surprises for a woman who treated me like an Uber driver and a bank account. I stopped bending over backwards for someone who thought Wednesday nights at the Empire Regent would stay a secret because I was too trusting. Silence. And then, like clockwork, the waterworks started. Full-on tears, shaking shoulders, the whole tragic performance. I'm sorry, she said. I really am. I didn't know how to stop it. It got out of control. I studied her face. The trembling lip, the wet lashes, the slightly smeared eyeliner. It was good. A solid B+ in crisis acting. But I wasn't in the mood for theater. Does Elena know it was you? I asked calmly. Her eyes snapped up. What? Elena Caldwell. Your boss's wife. Also your boss's boss, technically. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. How do you? I know everything, I said. I know about the champagne, the robe, the schedule. I know you weren't going to spin class. Unless spin class now involves bathrobes and executive suite keycards. Her face turned white. You told her? She asked, barely audible. No, I said. I let her listen. The look she gave me was a mix of horror and betrayal. Like I was the one who had crossed the line. That's the thing about people like her. They can cheat, lie, gaslight, and still somehow act like the victim the moment the tables turn. She's going to ruin me, she whispered. Good, I said. She stood up, pacing now. Her hands were shaking. You don't understand. This could destroy everything I've worked for. I stood too, slowly, deliberately. No, what you did destroyed everything we built. You want to worry about your job now? Be my guest. I'll be over here worrying about my dignity. She turned to me, eyes wild. So what, this is it? You're just going to walk away? No, I said. You are. She blinked. Pack a bag, I said. Today. Tom, you're not going to make this a drawn-out drama, I said. You're not going to cry into my guest towels while you figure things out. You made your choice in Suite 2141. Now you get to live with it. She looked like she might argue. But then she saw something in my face, something she hadn't seen before. The end. No bargaining. No angry shouting. Just cold, quiet certainty. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. I'll be back in a couple hours, I said. Be gone. I didn't slam the door. I didn't need to. When I came back, she was gone. At least, mostly. She'd taken her work clothes, her phone charger, her MacBook. Left the photos. Left the books. Left the engagement ring, sitting in its original box on the coffee table like a hostage ransom. And left a note. Not handwritten. No, she wasn't that poetic. It was typed. Probably, while sitting in the same apartment she'd once decorated with throw pillows and lies. It read, Tom, I know nothing I say can undo the damage I've caused. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know that I did love you. I just lost sight of what mattered. I'll stay with my sister for now. Please don't make this uglier than it has to be. I laughed out loud when I read it. Not a happy laugh. More like the kind of laugh you give when you find out your car was towed while you were inside buying jumper cables. I folded the note and tossed it into the recycling bin. Figured it was the most sincere thing she'd done all year. The next few days were quiet. Her boss? Still jobless. Last I checked, he was posting motivational quotes on LinkedIn about resilience and reinvention. His wife? Cleaned house. Legally, financially, socially. She even unfollowed him on their dog's Instagram account. That one made me laugh harder than anything. My soon-to-be ex? She sent a few texts. Apologies. Vague half-excuses. Hope you're doing okay. Messages that felt more like fishing lines than empathy. I didn't reply. What was the point? Instead, I met with a divorce lawyer. Explained the situation. Gave them the timeline, the receipts, even the hotel audio. Turns out, recording your own voice in a public-facing building isn't illegal in New York. Who knew? The lawyer smiled as she flipped through my evidence. Looks like you're going to be just fine, she said. Yeah, I replied. I know. I walked out of that office lighter than I'd felt in years. And I wasn't done. Not even close. There's a special kind of calm that comes after you stop pretending. When the mask's off, the curtain's closed, and all that's left is whatever raw version of yourself survived the blast. That's where I live for the next few weeks. Not in grief. Not in rage. Just in this cool, quiet pocket of clarity. My world wasn't smaller without her. It was cleaner. Like someone finally turned off the static. She tried to reach out. Of course she did. First, it was texts. Can we talk? Then voice notes. That sweet, practiced tone that always used to crack my spine like bubble wrap. Not anymore. Then emails. Full paragraphs about therapy, confusion, lost identity. She even dropped a few nostalgic lines, like, remember our trip to Maine? We were so happy there. Yeah, until I checked the timestamp on one of her photos and realized she'd cropped out a text from her lover mid-caption. Funny how betrayal has a digital footprint. Eventually, she got desperate. Started showing up outside my office. Just standing there. No calls, no dramatic scenes. Just presence. like she thought proximity was a valid apology. One time, she waited in the lobby with a box of my old college sweatshirts, the ones she used to steal for comfort. She handed them to the receptionist like they were sacred artifacts. The girl at the front desk texted me, "Dude, your ex just brought you laundry." I donated them the next day. Let some stranger feel warm for once. In the meantime, I was building something. Not just the divorce case. That was already in motion. My lawyer had every shred of proof she needed, and Elena had already agreed to a sworn affidavit about the affair timeline. But I wasn't interested in winning a legal technicality. I was interested in reconstructing the narrative. You see, people like her survive off image. They curate their lives like Instagram influencers. Carefully arranged smiles, humble brag captions. Just got back from yoga, selfies that conveniently ignore the walk of shame they took through a hotel lobby hours earlier. So I started working on something she couldn't curate. It began with a single document, a timeline. Not just of the affair, but of everything leading up to it. Every canceled dinner. Every gaslighting moment where she said I was paranoid. Every team-building retreat that doubled as a hookup weekend. I included screenshots, receipts, calendar events. Even the AirTag data. It was comprehensive, ruthless, inarguable. Then I turned it into a presentation. Not a PowerPoint. Please, I have standards. It was a sleek, interactive website. Nothing public. Just a private link with password access. Designed it like a case study. The dismantling of a marriage in 12 moves. Complete with chapter headings, embedded audio, and clickable references. Think Netflix docuseries, but without the soothing British narration. Why? Because there were people who needed to know. Her parents, for starters. They'd always thought I was too quiet, not driven enough, too comfortable in my career. They used to nudge her toward ambitious men at family functions. Little did they know, their daughter's idea of ambition was climbing the ladder on someone else's lap. Then there were our mutual friends, the couples we used to double date with, the ones who always said, "You two are perfect." Some of them already suspected something. I could tell by the way they asked, "You guys okay?" Like they already knew the answer. So I sent the link. No dramatic caption. No scorned husband rant. Just, in case you're wondering. I expected backlash. But mostly, I got silence. The kind of silence that happens when people are too stunned to fake a reaction. One friend replied with a single word, "Jesus." Another just sent a vomiting emoji. Her cousin, the one who once told me I was lucky to have such a hot wife, called to apologize for ever saying that. I had no idea, he said. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. But the crown jewel? That came 2 weeks later. I got an invitation. Digital. Tasteful. Black and gold. Her company was throwing their annual gala, the one she used to brag about endlessly. Open bar, celebrity DJ, rooftop venue with a view of the whole damn city, as she once put it. And guess who still had a +1 on file in the guest system? Yours truly. I RSVP'd yes. Not to cause a scene. I'm not that guy. But I had a point to make. I called Elena first. Told her my plan. Asked for her blessing. She laughed. A cold, sharp sound that made me genuinely like her for the first time. "Do what you want," she said. "Just save me a video." So I rented a tux. Nothing flashy. Just clean, tailored, better than I ever wore when I was with her. I brought a date. Not a rebound. Not a stunt. Just someone smart and sharp and in on the joke. Her name was Jordan. She worked in tech, hated marketing jargon, and had a smile that made people nervous in the best way. We walked into that rooftop party like we owned the building. My ex saw me before I saw her. I felt it, that shift in the atmosphere, like a thermostat dropping 5 degrees. I turned. There she was. Tight black dress, too much contour, glass of wine trembling slightly in her hand. She didn't approach me at first. She hovered, lurked. I watched her from the corner of my eye as she pretended to laugh with coworkers, her glances like boomerangs trying to land on me without being obvious. Then she moved, crossed the room like someone about to do something brave but regrettable. "Tom," she said, her voice barely above the music. I turned slowly, smiled. "Hey." She paused. Her eyes flicked to Jordan, who gave her a polite nod, and then turned away like she'd just met a server at a restaurant she wasn't planning to return to. "I didn't think you'd come," she said. "You invited me," I said. "Technically." She gave a tight smile. "Can we talk?" "Right now?" I said. "At your big party?" "It's important." I looked over at Jordan. She shrugged. I'll go grab drinks, she said. Give you two a moment. My ex led me to a quieter corner near the balcony. The skyline glowed behind her like a cruel backdrop. I saw what you sent everyone, she said, voice low. The site. The audio. I nodded. Hard to argue with primary sources. She blinked. You humiliated me. No, I said. You did that. I just turned on the lights. She looked like she might cry again. I didn't care. I've lost so much, she whispered. Good, I said. I still love you. That made me laugh. Out loud. Not mocking, just exhausted. The way you laugh when someone tells you the Titanic might have made it if it turned a little faster. No, I said. You love the version of me that didn't know better. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. I'm not yours anymore, I said. You don't get to touch me like that. She stood there, frozen, like a statue of regret sculpted in Louboutin heels. Then I left, walked back to Jordan, took my drink, and watched my ex shrink into the background of the life she ruined. I didn't say goodbye. She didn't deserve it. The morning after the gala, I woke up to exactly 72 unread notifications. Not all from her. Thank God. She had enough self-preservation not to try another apology tour right away. No, these were from the peanut gallery. Our so-called friends. Her coworkers. LinkedIn connections who suddenly remembered I existed. Most of them said some version of the same thing. Bro, that was savage. A few got creative. If you ever want a job in PR crisis destruction, I got a spot. One guy, I think he worked in HR, simply sent a GIF of a nuke going off. Apparently, someone at the gala had filmed part of our balcony conversation. Not the whole thing, thankfully, but just enough to catch the moment I leaned in and said, "You don't get to touch me like that." It went semi-viral on TikTok. The caption read, "When your ex-wife tries to cry her way back after cheating with her boss." 10 seconds of blurry rooftop drama. Just enough for strangers to project their own messy love lives onto it. The comments section was a buffet of betrayal stories, revenge fantasies, and more than a few marriage horror stories that made mine look tame. She must have seen it. I know because 2 days later, she filed a motion to expedite the divorce. It was her first smart move in months. Meanwhile, I was busy living the life of a man who'd escaped a burning building with all his limbs intact and a grin on his face. My apartment was quieter. My sleep was better. My inbox didn't contain any midday guilt traps disguised as "Can you pick up oat milk?" texts. I ate what I wanted, went where I pleased. And for the first time in 5 years, I didn't have to keep up with anyone else's curated chaos. It was addictive. Jordan and I kept things light. No pressure. Just someone to split sushi with and laugh about the absurdity of life. She'd been through her own version of romantic hell. A fiancé who once took her engagement ring to a pawn shop to buy crypto. So we bonded over shared trauma and mutual disinterest in getting serious. We even had a running joke. Every time someone sent me a dramatic message about how sad it all is, I'd read it aloud in a dramatic voice while she rated it from 1 to 10 in Oscar-worthy delusion. But of course, peace never lasts forever. It was a Tuesday, the kind of overcast, uninspired Tuesday that makes you question why we even bother with daylight savings. I was walking back from lunch when my phone rang. Blocked number. I answered, more out of boredom than curiosity. Tom. The voice was familiar. Shaky. A little breathless. Like someone who'd sprinted up a flight of stairs, then realized they left their dignity at the bottom. Elena. I said. Can we meet? She asked. Today? It's about them. I agreed, mostly because I was curious. And because I had a soft spot for people who'd been blindsided by betrayal and chose revenge instead of therapy. We met at a minimalist coffee shop in Midtown. The kind with cold brew that tastes like regret and baristas who look like they write manifestos in their downtime. She looked sharper than ever. Tailored navy pantsuit. Sleek ponytail. Eyes that could slice through granite. I won't waste your time, she said, skipping pleasantries. He's suing me. I raised an eyebrow. For what? Hurt feelings. Defamation, she said, handing me a document. He claims I leaked confidential employee information and intentionally sabotaged his career. I skimmed the first page. It was laughable, full of legal fluff and ego-driven bluster. Does he know about the hotel audio? I asked. He suspects. Can't prove it. So why tell me? I asked. I'm not a lawyer. No, she said. You're something better. You're patient zero. The one who caught the disease before it spread. That made me chuckle. She slid another envelope across the table. Inside, copies of her ex-husband's emails. Turns out, he'd been sleeping with more than just my wife. Half a dozen junior employees, at least 2 competitors' reps, and, get this, the woman who designed the gala invitation, which explained the sudden use of Comic Sans on the RSVP cards. She tapped the envelope. This makes the defamation case complicated for him. I nodded slowly. So what do you want from me? I want you to write a statement about what you saw, what you heard. If it goes to court, I want him so buried in paper he suffocates before a verdict is reached. I took a sip of my lukewarm espresso. Fine, I said, but I want something in return. She looked amused. Name it. I want the footage from the gala, I said. The real one, not the TikTok junk. The one your security team recorded. I know you have it. She smirked. Done. I filed my statement 2 days later. 3 days after that, I got the footage. Full HD, clean audio. For angles. A cinematic masterpiece of awkward heartbreak and unfiltered truth. I didn't share it. Didn't need to. Just watched it once, alone, with the lights off. At the moment where she reaches out and I step back, I paused it. Looked at the man on screen. Calm. Grounded. Unbothered. That wasn't the old Tom. That was me. Now, the divorce finalized the next week. Clean break. No spousal support. No shared assets. Thanks to a prenup she once insisted was unromantic. Irony's a funny mistress. She moved out of the city. Word is she's staying with a friend in upstate New York, trying to rebuild. Someone sent me a photo of her at a farmer's market, dressed like an extra in a Hallmark movie. Big hat. Fake smile. Holding a bundle of kale like it was a personality. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was free. You ever have one of those dreams where you're falling, but then you suddenly land on your feet, not in real life, but in some other version of your life where everything just makes sense? That's where I was now. No more late-night pacing. No more doom-scrolling through relationship advice subreddits looking for signs I wasn't crazy. Just clean air, a closet full of clothes that didn't smell like her perfume, and the satisfying knowledge that I had lived through the kind of betrayal that usually ends with a police report. And I came out sharper. But don't get me wrong, I wasn't done. Closure? That's a fairy tale concept. Something therapists hand out when you've paid for 6 sessions and they're trying to wrap it up. What I wanted wasn't closure. I wanted a conclusion. One she couldn't spin or soften. One final move that wasn't loud or violent or legally questionable, just decisive. The thing about people like her is they never really go away. Not emotionally. Not digitally. They linger. Like malware. You clear your cache, change your passwords, delete the shared playlists, but somehow, they keep showing up. In people you may know, in shared memories, in group chats where no one has the balls to kick them out. And sure enough, she did the classic move. She started dating someone new. He was safe. Predictable. The kind of guy who wears sweater vests unironically and says things like, let's circle back, in normal conversation. I got the full dossier from an old coworker who still followed her socials. His name was Philip, and I swear to God, his profile picture was him holding a cappuccino like he'd just discovered caffeine. She'd cleaned up her image too. No more sultry selfies or rooftop glamour shots. Now it was farmers markets, brunch plates, and captions like, grateful for growth. Translation. Please forget the part where I torched my marriage for a guy who got fired in a towel. But the internet doesn't forget. Not when you leave footprints like hers. And certainly not when someone like me is still quietly building the final play. It started with a podcast. Not mine. I don't have that kind of patience. But a friend of mine runs a pretty popular one. He's one of those smug but likable types who talks about tech, relationships, and corporate drama like he invented coffee shop culture. He invited me on months ago when I first told him what had happened. I declined at the time. Wasn't ready. But now I was very ready. We called it The Spin Class Lie. Episode 47. Released on a Wednesday. I didn't name names. Didn't need to. Just told the story as it happened, with every detail scrubbed of identifiers, but dripping in recognizable moments. The Find My Pings. The AirTag. The concierge gig. The champagne. And the final twist? I shared how it unraveled from her perspective. How she got caught, exposed, humiliated. How she tried to pivot and play the victim. How the career she once clung to like a life raft was now a LinkedIn ghost town. I told the story slowly, methodically, in that same calm, detached voice I've learned to wear like armor. And the public? Ate it up. Within hours, the episode hit trending. Within 2 days, it cracked the Apple Top 10. People weren't just listening, they were dissecting it. Guessing who she was, who he was, trying to match the details to real people. And then someone did. Not me. I never confirmed a thing. But someone from her old company pieced it together. Maybe it was a timestamp on a photo. Maybe it was the phrase, Sweet 2141. Either way, it got out. Suddenly, her Instagram was private. Her Pinterest boards vanished. And Philip, the cappuccino guy, he deleted every photo of them together within 24 hours. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just sat there, watching it happen like the final credits rolling on a movie I financed but never had to star in. 2 weeks later, she reached out. Of course she did. It was an email this time. Subject line, "Can we talk?" The body was long, predictably introspective, full of the usual greatest hits. "I've grown so much. You didn't deserve what happened. I still think about you every day." She even used the word soulmate. I closed the email. Didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded it to Jordan with the message, "Score this one. Scale of 1 to Oscar bait." She replied, "That's a 9.5. Loses half a point for soulmate. God, I love her." And that was it. That was the last time she reached out. Because by then, the message was clear. This wasn't a story she could spin anymore. It was mine. And I'd already told it better than she ever could. Now I live in a different part of the city. Different building, better view. I still get the occasional nod from strangers who think they recognize my voice from the podcast. Some of them want advice. Some just want to vent. I listen, smile, wish them well, and I don't think about her. Except when I pass a spin studio. Then I remember, and I laugh. Subscribe to the channel